I'm doing something a little untraditional today and talking about one of my passions. So I'm gonna explain to you why I'm on this adventure, but it's easier to do via video.
This is the state of the former home of the matriarch of Black literature, Zora Neale Hurston. My husband and I are vacationing in Fort Pierce, Florida, and we found a heritage trail of some of the last places that Zora Neale Hurston lived and worked. An American writer, folklorist, and anthropologist, most famous for her novel Their Eyes Were Watching God, Zora traveled through the South and the Caribbean collecting stories, ideology, and folklore. Born in 1891 in Alabama, Zora soon moved to Eatonville, Florida, and attended prestigious institutions such as Howard University, Barnard College, and Columbia University, studying anthropology. She received critical acclaim for her short stories, novels, and poetry. Hurston was a pivotal thought leader alongside Langston Hughes of the Harlem Renaissance, but with the Great Depression, she was forced to leave New York. Many of the locations along the Heritage Trail had unclear or wrong information, so we took a while to find the school where she used to teach, Lincoln Park Academy, and the home where she lived, which had been moved to allow for the school to expand. The house is completely in disrepair, and it feels like such a wasted opportunity not to have a museum or a monument in honor of the famed writer. Another stop on the trail was a building where Zora used to work for a newspaper called The Chronicle. It felt especially bizarre because we had been to the building before to visit a Trinidadian restaurant, and employees in the building had no idea of the story to pass. In her later years, it said she had to take up odd jobs like being a maid to make ends meet, and died alone in a welfare home. Initially, there was no tombstone to mark her grave, and her works were all but forgotten until Alice Walker read Their Eyes Were Watching God and declared Zora Neale Hurston a genius of the South. She then created a tombstone and went down to try to find her grave. It said they looked all day and couldn't find it anywhere, and it wasn't until she called out, "Zora!" that her foot fell in a grave, and they put the tombstone down. Though these milestones in the life of Zora Neale Hurston seem undervalued and underfunded here in Fort Pierce, Florida, the wealth of literature that she has left us can never be diminished. If you have seen the video, almost 100,000 people have seen the video and shared their love for the legacy of Zora Neale Hurston. And I wanted to play for you because, of course, I come at life from a musical angle. And so I found music. You can hear Zora's voice. So I want to invite Zora's voice into the space. This is a song called The Crow Dance.
Oh, mama, come see that crow, see how he flies. Oh, mama, come see that crow, see how he flies. This crow gonna fly tonight, see how he flies. This crow gonna fly tonight, see how he flies. Oh, my mama, come see that crow, see how he flies. Oh, my mama, come see that crow, see how he flies. This crow gonna fly tonight, see how he flies. This crow gonna fly tonight, see how he flies. Oh, my mama, come see that crow, ah! Oh, mama, come see that crow, ah! Oh, my mama, come see that crow, see how.
So you could hear Zora's voice as she went around the South and collected folk stories in Florida, in Georgia. She also went to my native Jamaica and documented so much of the work in the South. So she's a hugely instrumental anthropologist, poet, and many of you have read her novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God. So today we're very excited because we have the former president of the Zora Neale Hurston Florida Educational Foundation and the current newly minted president. And so I'm going to invite them now to join.
That is
There it
awesome.
is.
Right,
That is
bless,
awesome.
bless. Okay, hello. Amazing to see
Hi.
your
Hello,
wonderful
hello.
faces.
So nice to meet you.
Yes, you too. And you have an incredible voice.
Oh, bless
Oh
you.
my goodness, I could listen to that all day. It's just
Absolutely
beautiful.
incredible.
You
It
guys are
is.
Absolutely.
amazing. You guys are amazing. I didn't even know that Zora Neale Hurston sang and had a beautiful voice as well. I spent the morning listening to some recordings of hers, and it was just amazing to hear. There's such a connection between art songs that we sing in classical music and the anthropological work that she did. And so I can't wait to see what kind of adventures and collaborations we can create in the future. Just so you all know who these geniuses are among us, um, Miss Marina Santos has so much history in the city of Fort Pierce, Florida, where we met and where we went on the Heritage Trail. She's had several careers as an entrepreneur, as an office manager, working at companies EBN, and I'm on MG Cruises casino ship, Rogolino Construction, etc., etc. She's just a boss. In summary, and Dr. Hobson is an English professor who has worked in Florida and is currently in Texas as at the Lone Star College, I believe, in Conroe, Texas, not far away from me.
Oh, are you in Texas?
I am in Texas. I'm close to
Nice.
Dallas right now. I'm in Keene.
Oh my goodness, we definitely need to connect. Well, I'm actually at San Jacinto College.
Just kidding.
Yes, I just moved into a new position as department chair of behavioral and social
Con-
sciences. Yes, so
Congratulations.
yes.
Congratulations. So I want to just jump right into it. I'd love to know, especially from Ms. Santos, so you have so much history in the city. You said five generations of your ancestors have lived in Fort Pierce. That's just amazing.
Yes.
That's
Um, in that city that has history like the Florida Highwaymen, who are
Hmm.
artists that are featured in the Smithsonian from such a small city, can you share with us the history of your family in that town, if they met any of those essential people that are part of history, etc.?
Um, okay, so we came to Fort Pierce in '87. And my mom, Brenda Cooper, was basically the one that was hobnobbing, getting to know all the city officials. She also was the senior citizen director for Helping Hand Neighbors, which is how the story went for me finding out who Zora was. But to answer your question, I don't. I believe that we've met quite a few of the matriarchs in the community.
Mm.
Um, Church matriarchs, knowing Marjorie Harrell, because she was Zora's student, and just people like that. So, but it's really been a blessing to have five generations in that community. Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's
yeah.
beautiful. While I was there, I sang actually at a church. And
Oh,
before I sang,
which
I was
one?
like, we've had such a lovely week. We went and did this heritage trail. How many of you all have done the heritage trail? I think one hand went up. And I was like, well, how many of you know who Zora Neale Hurston is? I think three hands went up. And I was horrified. Like a city with so much history, like how can it be
Yes.
that people don't know? So that's why we're having this conversation, because people need to know. And that's been the reaction from so much of the TikTok and the Instagram having all of these views, is people, a lot of people don't know. Dr. Hobson, as an educator in the state of Florida and Texas, have you had backlash? Because I know you teach English and African studies. Have you ever had pushback when you've tried to implement like lesson plans about Black literature?
all the time. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I was in that community for almost 20 years.
Mm,
And so you get ebbs and flows of it, right? You get times when it's widely accepted and appreciated and adored and embraced. And then you get times when it's not. When I moved to Florida in 2002, 2003, I was introduced to Zora through teaching her, right?
Mm.
I completed my bachelor's in English, my master's in reading education, focusing on literature, and no one had ever introduced me to Zora Neale Hurston. And so I just randomly, they gave me a eighth grade honors. I was teaching eighth grade English, and they said like weeks before classes started, okay, you have to teach this honors English class. And I was like, I've never taught that before. And one of the required readings was Their Eyes Are Watching God. And I just fell in love with the text. And it was that year in 2003 that they were like commissioning. If you ever get a chance to go to West Palm Beach, there's the unmarked grave. Well, it was an unmarked grave of all of the many of those African Americans who died in the 1928 hurricane that's chronicled at the end of Their Eyes Are Watching God.
Mm.
That grave was unmarked for many, many years, and it was commissioned in 2003. And I got a chance to be there for the commissioning of that and to take students to that in 2003. And so that opened up for me this whole world of Zora that I was not privy to. But
Mm.
in 2003, that was widely accepted, right? But then we have times in more recent times where, and of course, these books or Zora's books are being banned, and people don't see the value of the songs that she collected, the language that she tried to preserve in
Mm.
literature. And so there's a lot of pushback with that. Why are we reading this dialect, right? Why do I need to read this?
Mm.
And so through actually teaching it with quality, people are able to see that this is really capturing a whole culture of people who, really were not even allowed to formally um, learn how to read and write. And so they
Mm.
created their own language, right? And so it just really gives a direct connection of how language works. And so that's so nuanced where people just want to check off a box in a class, right? So
Right.
so yes, we've seen a lot of those issues, and I think even at the museum, we've had people donating books because they don't feel it. Some teachers even don't feel like they are free to teach uh, African American literature in their classes.
Wow.
So we've seen some of those challenges, and we're willing to address those in the museum once it's open as well, to be a space where, of course, everything Zora can be taught and discussed and explained and highlighted. So
Right.
yeah, we're
It's interesting you talked about the graves that are mentioned at the end of Their Eyes Were Watching God. I actually just finished rereading it this week, and it struck me how there is a moment in the book that they're burying people, and they told the people, make sure you see if they're black or they're white, because the black people don't get a box. They just go straight into a big hole.
mass
And
grave.
if what was that?
Yeah, mass grave.
Mass grave.
And
Mass
that
grave.
mass grave is in West Palm Beach. Yeah,
Right.
and still there. And there are several others that are probably not marked. And then there are white grave sites all throughout South Florida that are marked from people who died in the 1928 hurricane. Yeah, and
Right.
so it's
And
amazing
it's
to see.
absolutely. And it struck me as I was doing the Heritage Trail that is there in Fort Pierce. Initially, we typed in the name of the cemetery where she was buried and went and we're walking around and we couldn't find anything. And then we realized it was because we were in the white part of the cemetery. We had to go to a whole another part of town to find the where all of the black people were buried. And so it's fascinating to see how history is alive and tactile in this time, and we have to know how that what happened so we can know what the ramifications are of it today. Even
So true.
the right, even the date that she was born in on her tombstone, it says 1901, which we are so grateful for the tombstone. And so, but that tombstone says 1901,
Yes.
whereas many other things say that she was born in 1891. Can either of you explain what is the discrepancy? Why don't we know when and where she was born?
Okay, so now we know, but at the time that Alice Walker came there in 72, 73, we did not know. So it really tells the story. And I tell students when I take them there, when I used to take them there every year, or whenever we do tours there, is that it shows the importance of continuing to do research, right? Because we know in part, and so then we deliver research in part. We only know in part of what we know. And so when she came there, we did not know because Zora had lopped off 10 years of her documents, 10 years of her age off of her legal documents in order to qualify to get a free high school education because she was 26 years old and had not completed high school.
Wow.
And so when she got up to Howard, or got into DC at Morgan State, sorry, and wanted to freely get access to complete her high school diploma, they would only do it if she was, within a certain age range. So she just removed 10 years from her age and she qualified. Like, so I was like, that's no obstacle for me. I'll just move. And she looked great at 26. She looked like she could, be 16 years old. And so said, so done. But when we continued to do the research, when researchers continued to, and biographers continued to do the research, they found that when they compared the ages and the documents from her siblings, because I think she's like the fifth child, if I'm not mistaken. So when you calculate the ages, and look at the actual birth certificates of all of her siblings, Zora was born in 1891. But at that time, when we found that out, the graves, the marker had already been created. And
Right.
so, I even say, and I think Alice Walker has been to Fort Pierce once or twice. It's just a great story to tell of like how she has emerged as this amazing author. And so, we're like, should we remove it? No, it's like then we wouldn't be able to tell that story, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
That's beautiful. And
Such a
that's
trailblazer.
right. And that's so important what you said about continuing to do the research. I mean, myself, when I went and did the trail, and I made my video, I was just doing it based on whatever I learned on the trail, which is not very much. I'm certainly not an anthropologist myself. I'm not
yeah.
a
You're
literary.
you're one in training.
I'm in training.
There you go. There you go.
No, but so people called me out in the comments when there were details that I got wrong. And so I appreciated that.
Okay.
Um, and I would love to know one of the things that they called me out on was why she left New York. So we know she went to New York to
Mm.
attend Barnard College, which is the women's, at the time was a women's college of Columbia University on scholarship, etc. Why she left New York.
You have to look back at the actual timeline, but Zora was always fluid, right? I mean, she would find an opportunity and move here, move there, decide to get a boat, like she did and live on a boat, which is where she was found right before she moved to Fort Pierce, right?
Mm.
Living on a
Hmm.
boat in Melbourne. I
Hmm.
mean, how amazing would that be today? And the boat was called Wanna-Go. But I think what maybe some people are referencing when they talk about her exiting New York and coming for solace in Florida is after the 1942 allegations of sexual molestation. And so at around that time in the early 40s, she was in New York, and one of her landlords had a son, and they accused her of molesting this son. And it was all on the black news, and they, of course, she lost some of her connections and some of her, you know, uh, writing rights, which was very difficult for her to get to begin with as a black woman. Could you imagine, right? But she was at the top of her game at this time. But she lost some of those connections because of what happened in the media. And so I believe she came back to Fort Pierce to kind of lick her wounds in order
Mm.
to restore herself. And that is indeed what happened. I mean, she still got plenty of work from being here or there in Florida, and because of her travels, ironically, she was able to prove on her passport when they actually took it to court and tried her for it. She was able to prove based on her passport that she was in Honduras,
Oh, wow.
and that's how she got out of or acquitted of those accusations.
Wow.
And of course, by that time, the media was nowhere around
Oh,
to
gosh.
help restore her identity. But Zora was just picking up and continuing on with her work by then anyway.
Right.
But
Right. But
that
she was
is
still
connected to what
devastated
you
by that. She was still pretty devastated by
so.
that for quite a, long time, and it's something that stuck with her, and she just tried to live with it the best way she could.
Mm. And I think it's incredible that she went back to Eatonville, to somewhere where she knew and loved. Where, for those of you who don't know, Eatonville was the first Black incorporated city in America.
It still
We
exists today.
still exist, absolutely. My husband and I
Yes.
tried to go, but then it didn't work out in the end. But alas, the and so we have this rich heritage of all of these cities that were thriving. We've heard recently about the Black Wall Street, Greenwood in Tulsa, and there are all these articles now about Seneca Village that existed and thrived in New York, that was completely destroyed to create Central Park that many of us know and love. Um, how is it, do you know how Eatonville has survived, how the Black neighborhood in Fort Pierce has survived? Do you know if there have ever been those threats, Ms. Santos?
Uh, yeah, they survived because we joined together to make sure that they did not go under.
Mm,
Our history has got to continue to move forward. And so some of us have joined together, to make sure that that doesn't happen. And the same thing happened with us, where we were threatened to take the building where the seniors were, which was Helping Hand Neighbors, Agape, and now we're turning it into the Zora Museum. And they wanted to take that and to try to turn it into something else or demolish it. We're not sure what they wanted to do with it. And so, we went to court, Marvin and I, and we joined together with some other people and told them what was happening. Mrs. Harrell was there, and we all went to court and kept, not to court, we went to the city hall, and
mhm,
we continued to keep bombarding them about making sure that we could keep that as part of Zora's legacy. And
mm,
that's how we were able to keep it. And they finally turned it over to us. It was a fight. It was a battle,
wow.
and Fort Pierce has kind of been like that for years, where, but it's slowly coming around. It's slowly coming around to where African American history, let's just say the struggle continues.
Mm.
The struggle is real.
Well, bless you.
This is a huge question that you've asked. The gentrification that has taken place not only in places like Fort Pierce and Eatonville, this
Right,
is all over the country,
Hmm.
right?
right.
These are spaces all over the country where black and brown, mainly black people, because we're talking about black spaces, but there are black spaces all over the country, mainly in the South, that were thriving, right? Up
Hmm.
until desegregation, right? These
Hmm.
areas were thriving with black owned businesses,
Mm,
um, uh, from every business that you could possibly imagine. And this is what Fort Pierce was like when Zora arrived
That's
there. She
right.
did not
That's right.
arrive to a declining, um, you know, I hate to say it, but a declining ghetto. She came to a thriving black community filled with love, filled with people
Hmm.
who extremely had this advancement. I mean, look at where she lived. Dr. Benton owned acres of property, built
Right,
communities, and gave her a house to stay in for free,
right,
right? Because it was
right,
just one extra house that he had. He's like, he didn't have to do that, right?
right.
So, we have so many examples of black excellence during this time that
Hmm.
is is erased right after desegregation. And places like Eatonville have been encroached upon by the growth of Disney, the growth of Orlando, and that same growth is what we're experiencing in Fort Pierce, is what
Right.
places like in Miami, you know, there are black spaces in Miami that are facing this as well. I mean, so this is, we could go on and on and on. Alabama, Mobile, right? But these black spaces are in danger even to
They are
this.
endangered.
And so one great thing I want to just highlight about what Eatonville and these are two spaces related to Zora. I know I'm talking too much, but I have to say this. The two spaces, the two things that I love about Eatonville, one thing that I love about Eatonville, and then the other space related to Zora is Plateau or Africa Town, right, in Mobile, Alabama, is that those communities, and this is something that we are, I'm hoping, going to look to do as well, is that they try to unify those formerly all black towns in order to help to give them resources so that they can thrive amongst this growth and gentrification that's happening around the country. So Eatonville brings together black owned towns, mayors and leaders, and they convene and come together to talk about how they can preserve black culture in those
Right.
spaces. And that also happens in Africa Town, which is where Zora documented the work of Cujo Lewis, right? And so
Enjoy.
that is a wonderful space. If you have not gotten to see, you know, that is amazing too, right?
Right. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. Just to get into the big thing that made me create the video was my horror when I
Mm.
saw the state of the house. Doing the trail in general was very difficult. Some of the details were wrong or and so when we finally found the house, I was like, wait, this isn't the right place because it was just broken down, kind of insect infested. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna at least like go in, like peek inside, like it felt like I was like spying on somebody's house because it didn't look like anybody was supposed to be
Right.
there. So
Right.
I kind of crept up and peered into the window, and there, there was basically nothing but stains on the floor, maybe a little like teacup on a table. Do you know who owns that house and why, as we would say in Jamaica, why it looks so?
So Dr. Benton, his family owned the property, and we were still renovating because we had gotten the grant from the state to renovate the Agape Center or the Helping Hand Neighbors, right? And so the last person in their family, the Benton family, was getting older, and so they sold off the property, and the conservation fund, well, Marvin was instrumental in making sure that the conservation fund found out about the property, and they purchased the property in our behalf, so that but we've only had it for a short amount of time.
So sorry,
But
sorry,
it fell into disrepair because it was just sitting.
right. Just to clarify, you guys now own the house and the welfare home, or just the senior citizen center, or
We own the Senior Citizen Center, right, which we're calling the Zora Dust Tracks Museum and Enrichment Center, and the house 1734 Avenue L is owned by the Conservation Fund on our behalf until we can get to a place where we can have those properties for under our umbrella. Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarification. Can you talk about what the vision you see, what this will be when we see it in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years?
How much time you got? The
The
vision is
2 minute version.
large. The vision is large. So to sum it up, we have so many fantastic plans. So the Avenue L, like I said, we're in the process. We're about to do the roof right now. Like next week, we're planning on starting on the roof to get that repaired. First, we want to make sure that the roof is sound and so forth, so that we can start renovating the inside. And so the vision for that property is to have a visitor center where people can come and see Zora's home, where she lived, where she last lived. We want to set up something so that authors can come and possibly stay, find a place where they can write, have some inspiration to write and create. We want to join with the college to do different things there as well. But at the museum, we have a lot more room and a lot more space to be able to do classes, to help fight literacy, to look to fight dyslexia, classes and things on how to help with dyslexia. And then, it's also a space where we can do authors, what do you call it, literary festivals and things like that. So the vision is like extremely large. We've gotten it all written down, and we're moving forward. And it's been quite a journey. Let me tell you, quite a journey.
Right. And if you, as you who are tuning in and watching, want to help support that vision, because that vision takes money.
Money, 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 money.
If you want to be a part of the creating of history, you can go to the ZoraFoundationMuseum.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we are about to update our website and get it looking a little better. But yes, that's our site.
Right.
And then if you want to contact us by email, you can also go to contact us at ZoraFoundationMuseum.com.
Then you all are accepting sponsorships. You can see it in the
Yes.
sponsorship tab. However much you want to give, whether it's the 5,000 or the 5 million or the $5, whichever moves, however the spirit is moving.
That's
That's
right.
right. That's right. That's right. Give and it shall be given unto you.
Praise, praise, praise him.
No, I just want to say also, this work, and this is for anybody who lives in a community that they care about, right? Preservation work is messy work,
Mm.
but it's worthwhile
It
and
is.
it's meaningful for us as anybody to do it, right? If you care about where you live, but especially for those of us who are the Black persuasion, to make sure that we preserve, we care for, and we maintain our spaces, right? And we shouldn't have to beg and plead for anyone else to do that for us. That we should be able to put forth the work to do that. And so that's what we've been trying to do. We were doing this and we didn't know there was such a thing
That's
as
right.
historic preservation, but people looked at us and said, "You're historic preservationists." I'm like, "I am." Okay. So, we say that, sits on a 1 acre lot that was formerly a Black only healthcare facility, right? And sits steps away across from the all white hospital, what used to be the
Right.
all white hospital.
That's
So we're
right.
preserving not only our history, but American history that took place in that little space right there that you saw when you were there in Fort Pierce. And so if you can imagine the challenges of that, because they already had another plan for this building,
Mm-hmm.
would be garnering them thousands, if not millions of dollars. And so, it all sometimes for others or for some of us, it comes down to money. And, we do need to take that into consideration. But we also need to do the work. And so we've been working hard to try and get grants, and we've gotten a couple of grants, both local and national and state and federal grants to assist with this process. But it takes money, and not only money, but it takes time, because all of us, we're all volunteers. This is not something that we've gotten
That's
like
right.
a salary from, right?
That's right.
So we're doing this above and beyond of our everyday jobs that we do. And so that has really been part of the challenge too, is corralling our volunteers together in order to get this work done. And I think we've done an amazing job. Of course, we would have liked for these things to have been done sooner and to be well ahead of the game, but it's taken us 6 to 7 years to get to this point. And
Yes.
so we are really super excited that we've been able to
Yes.
preserve that first building, and that now we have a clear plan to transfer ownership of this National Historic building, right? It's on the National Historic Registry. When you go to like national historic places in the United States, Zora Neale Hurston's house comes up there for Florida. And so we are so excited that we're a part of that. And we want you all and our listeners to be a part of that as well, right? And this is one way that you can do that. And also come and visit and let our
Yes.
community know that this is something that you value and that you appreciate, so that we can relay that to those who even have deeper pockets than we all have. So yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight for that part too.
I'd like to
I'm
say one last thing, that the updates will continue to keep coming. We'll continue to keep letting everybody know what we're doing, how things are moving along periodically. And so, just watch for us. And if you're interested in helping in any kind of way, just contact one of us.
And so you can see their Instagram account is the Zora Dust Tracks Museum. You can follow along for all of the updates. Dr. Marvin Hobson and Miss Marina Santos, I'm so grateful for your joining today and talking about the incredible work that you're doing in Fort Pierce, Florida, to keep American history, Black history, Zora Neale Hurston's legacy alive. Thank you so
We couldn't have
much.
done it without you.
Oh no. Thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. You
That's
are
right.
amazing. I'm like, how does she do this and you
I
and read
know.
all these scores? You are awesome. I've shown you to my daughter. I'm like, look, this is what you can do. This is what you can be. So you are a wonderful example. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. You're amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Bless you all.
Hmm.
Together
We'd
we
like to
press
have you
on.
come to the festival
I
next
was
year.
just gonna say that.
Come
We have to
on!
have you come to the festival,
I would love
March,
to.
the festival is March.
13th and 14th.
Okay, let's DM. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it
We're
out.
going to work it out.
All right.
Okay.
Ciao, everybody. Thanks for
I
Take
love
care.
it.
tuning in.
Bye bye,
All the
everybody.
best.
Bye.
Take care.